You know that story inside you? The one you keep thinking about, the one you tell yourself you'll write someday? Well, it's not random. It's not just your imagination running wild. It's a calling, and the world needs it. Hi, I'm Mark Graham, and this is the Mindful Storyteller. Over the next few weeks, we'll be preparing for NaNoWriMo together. But before I teach you how to write your own story, you need to understand why it matters. Because once you see what story really is, and what yours is meant to do, everything will change. Welcome, fellow storytellers. Since you're here, you may be gearing up for National Novel Writing Month in November. And maybe this is your first time attempting NaNoWriMo. Maybe you've tried before and didn't finish. Or maybe you're a seasoned writer looking for a deeper approach to your craft. Wherever you are in your journey, I'm glad you're here. This month, I'll be releasing 4 videos to prepare you for NaNoWriMo. Not just the mechanics of writing 50,000 words, but the foundations beneath it all. Today, we're starting with something hardly anyone talks about anymore. What is a story? And why does yours matter? This might challenge what you've been told about writing, but I promise, if you stick with me, you'll see your work differently. You'll see yourself differently. So, let's start with a question. A simple question. What is story? Most people think story equals entertainment. It's something to pass the time, a distraction. But that's not what story is. Story is a tool. And it's not just any tool. Story is humanity's first technology. Now, think about what makes something a technology. At its base, technology is simply anything that extends human capability. The lever extends our ability to lift heavy items. The wheel extends our ability to move them around. Fire extends our ability to cook, to stay warm, and to read late into the night. And language extends our ability to share complex ideas. Now, story does something even more fundamental. Story extends our ability to learn and evolve without dying in the process. Let me explain. Before we had agriculture, before we had the wheel, before we even had structured language, we had story. We gathered around fires and shared what happened that day. The hunter who escaped the bear, the woman who found water during the drought, the child who ate the wrong berries and didn't wake up. These weren't just entertainment. They were survival manuals. Because here's the thing. Story lets you learn without dying. You don't have to touch fire to know that it burns. You don't have to lose everything to understand grief. You don't have to make every mistake yourself because somebody else already made that mistake. They survived it, or maybe they witnessed someone not surviving it, but someone survived to tell you about it. Story is how humans cheat death as a teacher. Think about it. You learned about heartbreak before your very first breakup. You learned about betrayal before you were ever betrayed. You learned about courage before you needed to be brave. How? Through stories. Fairy tales weren't just bedtime stories. They were warning systems. Don't trust strangers in the woods. Don't be greedy or it will destroy you. Be kind to the old woman because she might be testing you. Every story you've ever consumed has shaped how you see the world and how you move through it. The story doesn't just entertain us. Story evolves us. And here's where it gets really interesting. Human beings essentially stopped evolving through natural selection around 10,000 years ago. Our bodies really haven't changed much since then, but our world has changed completely. So how did we go from caves to cities, From stone tools to smartphones, from isolated tribes to a globally connected civilization. It wasn't our DNA, it was our stories. Natural selection is slow. It takes thousands of generations for a species to adapt to new threats. But story? Story is instant. Story is a software update for human consciousness. When someone writes a story about a different way of living, everyone who comes into contact with that story receives that possibility. When someone writes a story that challenges an old belief, everyone who encounters it has the opportunity to change. Stories have toppled empires. Stories have started revolutions. A single book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, shifted the consciousness of a nation faster than any law ever could. Stories change us faster than genes ever could. And here's what I want you to understand. Every story that changes someone changes the trajectory of the world, including yours. If a story won't let you go, there's a reason. If a character keeps showing up in your mind, if a scene plays on repeat, if you keep coming back to the same theme over and over and over again, that's not random. Stories choose their tellers. Your obsessions are invitations from the muse. That story that's haunting you, it's got a transformation in there. Maybe it's a transformation you need. Maybe it's a transformation someone else needs. Maybe it's both. But it's trying to become real through you. Now, I know this may sound big, and it may be too big. You might be thinking, look, man, I just want to write a book. I'm not trying to change the world. But here's the truth. You don't get to write a story without changing something. Every character you create models a way of being. Every plot you craft teaches what's possible. Every ending you write suggests what we should hope for or what we should fear. You're not just writing a book. You are encoding a transformation. You are offering the world a new way of seeing, of being, or of healing. This is not small work. This is sacred work. And that brings me to the most important part. While every story performs a transformation, not all stories transform us in helpful ways. We've all consumed stories that left us feeling worse, stories that reinforced harmful beliefs, stories that made us more cynical, more fearful, more disconnected. Because here's the thing, unconscious storytelling can do real damage. If you're just transcribing whatever comes into your head without examining it, without asking what it's teaching, you may be passing on old wounds instead of healing them. You might be encoding the very patterns you're trying to escape. This is why mindful storytelling matters. Mindful storytelling means being intentional, being aware, being responsible for what you're creating. It means asking yourself, what transformation am I actually encoding? What is this story teaching? What world am I creating with these words? Well, let me give you an example. Now, you could write a revenge fantasy where the hero destroys everyone who wronged them and it feels great. Or you could write a story about someone who breaks the cycle of violence and finds a different kind of power. Same theme, same pain, completely different transformation. The stories we consumed as kids shaped what we believe is normal. They taught us about gender, about power, love, success, what's possible and what isn't. And most of the people who created those stories weren't thinking about that. They were just writing, or they were just living their stories around us. Now, your story will do the same thing for someone else. So the question is, what are you teaching? What reality are you encoding? And what transformation are you offering? This is where mindfulness comes in. And this is why I'm so passionate about what I'm teaching. Now, mindfulness doesn't always come easily, so I've developed some tools to help along the way. Over the next few weeks, I'll be sharing some of these tools with you. Now, be warned, these tools aren't simply about making your story marketable. They're about making your story true, about refining your calling into its most powerful form, about ensuring the transformation you're carrying actually lands and delivers the message that you want it to, because you have something to say, and it deserves to be said well. So friends, here we are. It's early October. We have just a few more weeks until NaNoWriMo. Now, since you're here watching this video, the call has already found you. You're here because something inside you won't let you ignore it anymore. And I want you to know, you don't need any more permission. You don't need to be more ready. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start. NaNoWriMo isn't really about 50,000 words. It's about showing up. It's about saying yes to the calling and trusting that the work will teach you what you need to know. Now, over the next few weeks, I'm going to give you some tools to honor what you've been given. In the next video, we'll talk about some creativity tools and ritual, how to show up, how to build a practice that honors the sacred work you're doing. After that, we'll dive into character development, using rune dice to uncover your character's wound, identity, and essence. Because the character is not someone you just made up. Your character is the heart of the transformation your story is meant to offer. And in the final week before NaNoWriMo begins, I'll show you how to use runes to generate a rough outline. Now, if the thought of an outline gives you hives, fear not. This is not a rigid structure that will kill your creativity, but simply a framework to help the medicine of your story resonate with power. But all of that starts here, with understanding what you're really doing. You're not just writing a book, you're answering a calling. You're encoding a transformation. You're participating in the oldest and most powerful technology humans have ever created. The world is waiting for your story. Not someday, now. So let's get to work. Now friends, if this resonated with you, I'd love to have you here for the rest of the journey. Hit subscribe and the bell button so you'll be notified when the next videos drop. And tell me in the comments, what's the story that won't let you go? I read every comment and I want to hear what's calling you. Now don't forget, next up we'll be diving into tools and rituals, so bring your shopping list and your creativity. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. And until then, may your story always guide you.